Well, it's a nice cool morning, so I figured, you can see the sun hasn't come up completely yet, so I'm going to come out here. I'm going to cut a bunch while it's still cooler. I do have my A2 Designs air filter put in there, and I did nip out by the choke a little bit so that the cover would fit back on better, but we're going to try to get a bunch cut. I'm going to probably split into the bucket for a little bit because I do have probably a bucket or two yet that'll fit in the bin I have there. And then after that is done, I am going to set the elevator up right here off the end of the splitter, and we're just going to run it up in a pile. So that's pretty much what my plan is for today. I'm trying to get a bunch done today because I pretty much have all day. It is supposed to get hot this afternoon, so we're going to see how that goes. But I'm going to get started now while it's nice and cool. Well, I got the first rack full cut. I do have some elm here, and then the first one I cut was actually an oak. So when I split it, I'll probably throw the oak and the elm. I'll probably throw it off over here in a pile, because that I'll put in probably for a mixed hardwood. But the rest of this is all going to be basically like lower grade campfire woods. So I'm going to get set up here now. We're going to split some and we're going to have some fun. Well, there we go. That's the end of filling that first bin. So I have a pretty good sized pile because the box elder and stuff goes all the way to here. And then from there back is all popple. That's actually dry. I can actually probably sell that now. But so this was full. My next bin is going to be kind of right in this area or over there along the bin. But I do have a pretty good sized pile here to finish taking out, and then it goes across the back. But I think for right now what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up the elevator because it's nice outside now. I can always pull a bunch of totes apart and cut a bunch of totes apart. I still got to find some skids so I can screw the other corners onto. But for right now, we're just going to run it up on a pile on the concrete, and then I can always get some totes set for making a bin and then just scoop up and just keep filling the totes. So for right now, that's what we're going to do. Well, we got the elevator set up. I got it raised up, so we're going to run a pile. I got this plugged into my foot activated pedal right here, which I can do that, turn it on and turn it off. So I do that just for a simple fact. It's a slow splitter. There's no need for the conveyor to run and run and run and run. I can turn it on, throw a few pieces in, turn it off, turn it on, turn it off. Just keep doing that and just run it up in a pile. So I do have the last of the first deck, which there's some pretty good sized ones here. And then I got obviously the cutoffs from that one. I'll end up cracking them so that way I can put in my boiler wood. And then I do have some elm here, which I'll throw off to the side there by the oaks. Well, from the first deck, so there's the one elm log. There was some pretty nasty stuff that ended up in the boiler tote. I got the oak over there. I don't know, I kept them separate for now. That may change. But then, since we started running the conveyor, I had that one big cottonwood that I had, and then I had one smaller box elder. So that's the pile that we got from that. So we're going to go get something to drink, and then I'm going to load up the deck and probably cut and split a bunch more, but I'm gonna probably do that off camera. So I'll bring you back when I'm done for today, and we'll see how much I got done. Well, there we go. That's a pile I got done. It's, I don't know, probably 5 feet high, and it's probably a good 6 feet or better around the bottom. So I did get that done. I did have a tote here that I did fill a lot with a bunch of nasty stuff for boiler wood, and then that one. So these two here have been put in here recently, but I did have a little bit of oak that I had, and then I had some good mixed hardwoods. So I decided to bring 2 totes over here. I figured I'll just stack these couple totes. I'm gonna just put the mixed hardwoods and the oak in as I do it, as I pick through the pile. I'm just gonna bring a bunch over here. The only thing I'm gonna sort out now is the pine. So I will just sort it out here, I guess, as I split it, because the majority of what I'm doing right now is gonna be going in for my campfire woods. So, but I'll just stack this tote full, you know, stack them full, set them off to the side somewhere, and then when I get to the pile of just straight mixed hardwood, then I'll make a bin, and then I can just set these next to it, so that way I know what's what. So thanks for watching. We'll catch you on the next one. Bye.